Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel today. I'm Kevin, and today we're back to our first World War topic. So this is the first video in this month I've ever made because we have a really long time to prepare for my entrance examination. And now I'm back. So today our topic are talking about the sky fighters. So in the last topic, after the Doom Yao, even before the Doom Yao, we also talk about another thing, that is the sky fight. It's not just like the sky fighters, but is about the first things that ever been made to fight on the sky. If somebody don't know about that, you should watch again about the topic on the thin air. Out of the thin air. This way, you could know what is the real thing that's made to be the master of the skies at that time. And if you guys don't have the time to know about it, then I will talk about it again. That is the Zeppelin. The Zeppelin is the first thing that is ever made to be a thing that to fight in the sky. On the sky. And now after that we have the plane. Zeppelin was created before the fighting plane because it was quicker and can have it have a lot of place so that the soldiers could place bomb and also other weapons so that they could create an air attack. But after that, the aircraft design is still in its early stage when the world flashes, especially on the inventions of the Zeppelin. So after that, the planes quickly evolve and start to be the next stage of machine in the actual fighters. Between the sky fight and also between the soldiers. Each tiny improvement in speed or agility or firepower gave the pilots the deadly advantage so that they could win even the whole project of the military. So this is the stories of how that the planes, from the things that they told, is just interesting things to watch every weekend by let them race together, or some things to move just one people into a deadly weapons in the early 90s. So the first thing we need to know that at first the plane didn't become a good weapons on the skies because at the time that the First World War broke out, plane is just things that only one people can use. And of course, with that ability to fly, the military used plane to scout the enemy's plane by going on the sky, flying above the skies. And that way they could easily see how did the enemies take their territory and also where that did they hide so that they could create the good plans to attack on those places. But at first, planes didn't have gun, right? We must know that plane is just things to move. It didn't have the ability to fight it cannot shoot the enemy's plane at first, just at first. At those times, when two side planes meet each other, they are going to wave at each other like, yeah, we are friendly, we're just going to scout, we're not going to do anything else. But sometimes they take out a pistol and take a pot shot at each other. After that, the engineers think that they need a plane. They need a gun. The machine gun is the best thing to use on a plane so that they could take down the enemies and make the plane a secret from them. So they try to create a gun. And of course, on the First World War movie we usually see on TV or on YouTube, we could see that the gun was but on the front side of the plane. But this create the problem that there is not so many body. Very few people think about. It's about the blame plane. So the first problem is the propellers. The propellers is the thing or the plate that the plane used to spin so that it could fly. And when at the first stage of this invention, the machine guns sometimes shot the plane blades itself. Okay, so the propeller sometimes being destroyed even before the soldiers can shoot off. Defeat the enemy's plane. And that thing make this an impossible decision. But after that, few months ago, the best position of a gun was defined as the front side of the plane by a soldiers. So Roland Garros is a French pilot, and he fixed the problem of the bullet shooting onto the plane blade by create deflectors and use the deflectors to fix the plane. So that way, when the bullet got hit into the plate, it would bounce off the deflector and go somewhere else. So that way, the plane propellers will not going to be destroyed. After that, these guys defeat a lot of enemies' plane before eventually being caught by the enemies. And when the Germans see the way he invented the deflectors of the propellers, they ordered the Dutch designer Anthony Fokker to examine and copy those deflectors. But instead of just copy, these guys create something even better than what Garros did. He created a synchronization gear. This is a system that give the plane the ability to shoot only when there is a gap between the plane blades or the propellers with the gun. That way, the gun only fire when there is space to the bullet for the bullet to fly through the blade. And when the blade is on the bullet way, the gun cannot shoot. This thing was created by rods and levers that fire the machine gun only when the gap is there. Alright? And of course, Fokker installed the gear in his Endeavour monoplane, a single-wing aircraft, and proved that this is the first proper fighter plane, and create a lot of achievement from his invention. So, throughout the winter of 1915, the Allies were losing 2 or 3 planes a day, just as a normal thing, because of Endeavour's plane. British newspapers called this phase of the war was the Fokker source. Allied casualties were so great that British pilots jokingly described their plane squad or plane team, the Royal Flying Corps, as the Suicide Club. But during the Battle of Verdun, the Allies had improved their tactics and their planes. Then they won back control of the skies. One French squadron known as the Storks even became famous for their fighter ace, a pilot that shot down 5 or more than the enemy aircraft. So, what is ace? Ace is the word that we use for a single person, a single pilot, when they can defeat more than 5 enemies' planes by themselves. So that's what an ace means. And this thing is getting caught in a lot of modern games today. For example, Valorant, you can see that when you kill 5 enemies yourself, the word ace will appear. And that is how to use the word ace. Yeah, this is just the bonus fact, alright? So, it wasn't until early of 1917 when the new machines one gave the German the advantage again. And of course, they have the upper hand. In April of that year, the RFC lost 245 planes to German fighter pilots. Among them, the world's greatest ace, Manfred Baron von Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron. So, every country from Australia to Russia had its ace, usually present as dashing their devil in the popular press. For example, the American Edward Rickenbacker notched up 26 kills in just a few months of 1918. Or the other example is the Frenchman Georges Guynemer became a newspaper celebrity with his 53 victories and was mobbed by his fans when he's back to his country after the fight. But the most impressive examples for the topic today is Richthofen's incredible record of 80 kills, confirmed by the Ace of Ace, which is his nickname. So that is how the fight goes when the Blades invented and also improved the firepower. But there is some things that we didn't talk about when we talk about planes. So when we talk about a planes, especially in those modern day, we will see that there is always an emergency parachute, even for the customer or for the pilot. But the big problem is here is that in First World War, they don't have the parachute. I mean, sometimes they have, but sometimes they don't. So although the fighter pilots began flying in larger groups as the war progressed, most air combat came down to one-on-one fight called a dogfight. Planes sometimes broke apart as the pilots dived and climbed, and fire was always a risk. French and German pilots have their parachute, but British flyers weren't, because the general think that the parachute is too heavy and is a burden to fight. And also they think that, yeah, my soldiers, when they see the first sign danger, they just like directly jump down the plane without hesitation. Maybe sometimes they die, maybe sometimes they don't. But especially we don't need a parachute when they already jump, because even when we have, it just costs more money. And with that, the British flyers in the early age of the sky wars in the First World War didn't have their parachutes and fight along with the enemies who have well armed and the safety tools. Alright? And in the winter of 1917, the tide turned yet again in the air war as German factories struggled to keep pace with Allied aircraft production. New planes such as British Sopwith Camel and impressive power of their agility has created a big difference compared to the German machine. Richthofen was chasing one of these fighters when he was shot and killed in 1918. His flying circus was soon outnumbered and decimated. By the end of the war, the Allies were the master of the skies. And yeah, there is one word that maybe some of you guys don't know, that is the flying circus. What is the flying circus? So the flying circus is the plane that Richthofen used. Richthofen is a skilled hunter, and he used his knowledge of stalking and surprise the enemies by hiding on the sky, hiding on the sky with his plane, and have destroyed 18 Allied aircraft. He is the one who have the 80 skills that I talked about with the nickname Ace of Ace. And of course, the flying circus didn't come by his skills, but come from how he painted his plane. So he earned his nickname after painting his plane with the blood red paint, a brazen coat of arms that terrified inexperienced pilots. All the German flyers followed the Baron examples and decorating their planes with bright paint. This led the Allied soldiers to nickname the planes that the flying circus. Alright, so that is the word of flying circus, which is a bonus fact, and it's also the end of my topic today about the sky wars in the First World War. And now I think it's time for us to say goodbye. See you in my next video, and yeah, this is a long clip, so bye bye.